Okay, so today we're diving into something that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, a brain implant that you can get without any surgery. We're going to break down how scientists are actually fusing living cells with tiny little electronics to create a whole new way to treat the brain. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if we could send targeted treatments deep into the brain with all the precision you'd expect from an implant, but deliver it all through a simple IV drip? That's the huge question that's driving this incredible new research. Now, to really get why this is such a massive deal, we first have to talk about how things are done right now. You see, brain implants are amazing tools, but they come with one, let's say, giant hurdle.
And here's the problem laid out plain and simple. Right now, it's all about invasive surgery. We're talking about opening up the skull, which, as you can imagine, brings major risks. Infection, pain, damage to the brain tissue itself. Plus, you can't even reach every part of the brain, and the precision isn't always perfect. The goal, the dream, is the total opposite. Something non-surgical, injectable, that can get to those hard-to-reach spots deep in the brain and stimulate cells with pinpoint accuracy.
So how on earth do you get from risky surgery to a simple injection? Well, researchers have come up with a completely new way of thinking about this problem, and they've given it a pretty cool name. That name is circulatronics, and the idea is just what it sounds like, creating electronics so incredibly small that they can literally travel through your bloodstream, find their target in your brain, and then implant themselves, all on their own. No scalpels, no drills. Of course, this is way, way easier said than done. The team had to clear 3 huge hurdles. First, they had to somehow build a wireless electronic device small enough to float through a blood vessel. Second, they needed to make sure it could survive the journey without getting filtered out by the body. And third, and this is the real genius part, they had to give it a kind of biological GPS so it would know exactly where to go and implant itself in the right spot. All right, so let's tackle that first hurdle. How do you build a device that small? This is where things get really wild. The devices they made are just 10 micrometers across, and to be clear, that is an almost impossibly small scale. To put that into perspective for you, these things, which they call SWEDs, are actually smaller than one of your own red blood cells. They're designed to just flow right through the tiniest blood vessels in the brain without getting stuck. It's incredible. So you might be wondering, how does something that small even work? How do you power it? Well, the solution is super elegant. You use light. A special near-infrared light, which can pass right through your skin and skull, is shined on the head. The little device basically acts like a microscopic solar panel. It turns that light into a tiny bit of electricity, just enough to stimulate the brain cells right next to it. It's a completely wireless system. Okay, so we've got the device. It's tiny, it's wireless, but that only solves the first problem. What about hurdles 2 and 3? Circulation and targeting. How do you get this little piece of tech to the right address in a place as complex as the brain? Well, the answer is genius. You don't build a fancy navigation system, you hire a biological taxi. This quote from the research paper just sums it up perfectly. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, the researchers decided to fuse their man-made electronics with the built-in natural intelligence of a living cell. And what's the perfect delivery vehicle for this job? An immune cell. Specifically, a type of cell called a monocyte. And what's so special about monocytes? Well, they have this amazing natural ability to hunt down and travel to spots of inflammation anywhere in the body, including, you guessed it, the brain. So how do you actually stick the device onto the cell? They use this amazing technique called click chemistry. You can literally think of it like molecular Velcro. They put one side of the Velcro on the device and the other matching side on the cell. When you mix them together, they just click into place. And what you get is a stable biohybrid, part living cell, part tiny machine, all ready to go on its mission. All right, so the whole theory is brilliant, right? You've got this tiny, light-powered device. It's piggybacking on an immune cell that will carry it straight to a problem area in the brain. But does it actually work in practice? Let's walk through the timeline from their experiment in mice. Just 6 hours after a simple IV injection, the biohybrids were on their way. Then, by the 72-hour mark, they confirmed it. The hybrids had crossed into the brain and implanted themselves right at the site of inflammation. A little while after that, the researchers flipped on the light from outside the body and successfully stimulated the brain. No surgery. And this is what really proves how elegantly the whole system works. Check out the control groups. When they injected just the devices, without their cell taxi, they went nowhere near the brain. And when they injected the complete hybrids into a healthy brain that had no inflammation, the cells had no target to search for, so they didn't implant.
This is the proof. You absolutely need both the cell and the inflammation for this to work. And here it is, the final proof, the smoking gun. The researchers measured a marker for brain cell activity called CFOS. And look at that difference. In the mice that got the light stimulation, brain activity was almost 3 times higher than in the mice who didn't. This confirmed it. The devices got to the right place, implanted themselves, and then successfully activated the neurons when the light was turned on. It worked.
So as you can probably tell, this is so much more than just a clever experiment. This success really opens the door to a whole new era of medicine.
So why is this such a potential game changer? Because a huge number of the most difficult neurological disorders all have one key thing in common: inflammation. We're talking Alzheimer's, MS, the damage after a stroke, even certain brain tumors and types of chronic pain. This technology could give us a way to deliver targeted therapy directly to those damaged areas, all without ever having to open the skull.
You know, what this technology really does is establish a brand new principle. We can use our own living cells as delivery trucks for tiny electronics. And that leaves us with this final, fascinating question. Now that we know we can send these cellular taxis to go find inflammation, what else could we program them to find? And what other kinds of cargo could they carry? The possibilities are just getting started.